RZ. My name's Stan, and today we're going to talk a little bit about grinding wheels and what I do to mount them, balance them, and my insight on grinding wheels. So let's go take a look at a little clip I shot the other day for Instagram, and it shows about ringing a wheel and finding a bad one. Okay, so that last wheel was, it was mounted on an arbor. I was switching wheels and I dropped it. And you could probably tell from there was a big chunk out of one of the corners. But even on the arbor, I would hold it on the arbor and give it a little tap, and it sounded a little funny, so I broke it down. Don't ring them off the arbor. Always make sure they're on the arbor. Hold them on some type of knife edge, like a piece of flat bar. And then they've got a plastic insert in the center usually, and that will give it a proper resonant quality, and you can tap it, always rotate it 180 degrees and check it both ways, and it should have a very clear ring. That's called ringing a wheel. And if you get a dull thud, you got a bad wheel. And the best thing to do is just destroy them and discard them. So my own fault, that was one of my favorite wheels. That was a depressed center tool room ruby blend wheel, and that thing was a great wheel. You know, after you find a good one that runs smooth and you're happy with it, it kind of breaks your heart when you either wear it out or, like I did here, I destroyed it. All right, let's go get a new wheel mounted up and talk about a couple things that need to be in place before you mount them up. Okay, well, I got you over here on the vise, and we've got an arbor here, and a few things you always want to check is make sure that this running face is clean, the arbor bore is clean, and put it on the machine and put an indicator on this. Make sure this runs true. And they're actually pretty easy to fix. That was in one of my other videos. It's pretty easy to fix if this doesn't run true, and I'm talking within at least have it run within a tenth on this face right here. People were talking about, well, why don't you make sure this runs true? This is kind of self-squaring, you know, when you do thread these on. Come on, reverse thread. There we go. You've got enough slop in these threads, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you've got enough slop in these threads that this is going to be self-aligning. So we're not too worried about that. And the blotter is going to take care of the rest. But I'm going to show you a couple tools that we use. This is a little pin spanner type wrench made by Sopco, S-O-P-K-O, look it up. They still sell arbors, different types of arbors, extended arbors, short arbors, large diameter arbors for cutoff wheels and things like that, but that's a dedicated pin spanner that fits here. Okay. Another type is an adjustable. This is an old Kent Moore. It's for adjusting differential nuts, and with just a little bit of clearance here and here, it works just fine. For doing your nuts. Another thing you can do, and this is actually one of my favorites. This is just a piece of flat bar with 2 cap screws in it. And what you can do with these is you just drop that into a vise, and you can use this on your lower holes. You've got holes on both sides, so you would find your holes first and get those lined up. Okay, so you're locked in there, and then you can come in here with a wrench and gronk it down and get it nice and tight. Now you do want to, before you mount any wheels, you do want to make sure that a blotter exists on both sides. If it's fallen off or you've lost it, it's cardboard, just like a cereal box. And I've made my own before. You cut out the center, drop it on, a little bit of, I use a single component urethane adhesive, put a little adhesive on the back so you don't lose it. And then after the arbor is mounted, then you can take an X-Acto knife and go around the edge and cut it nice and round. But you can make your own blotters if that's all that's missing. All right, so we're going to get this wheel mounted. And I've got a lot of different arbors. This is a non-balancing arbor, so we don't have any counterweights or anything on that. But this is a balancing arbor. And you're looking at it going, how the heck does that work? And you might not have seen one of these before. This is a kind of an unusual duck. And another thing you're going to notice is I don't have any holes to put a wheel on there. So I've already loosened the set screws. You're going to notice there's a couple of witness marks right here with arrows here and here. And I'm going to show you what these are all about. I'm going to take this first balancing weight off, and you can see there's a cavity there. Then I'm going to take this other one off, and you're going to see there's a cavity there. Now when you line up these 2 witness marks, you're going to see that the cavities are opposing. So I'm going to show you how to balance with these 2 rigs right here. And it's pretty interesting the way this works, and I think this is the most simple type of arbor. This one still needs to be cleaned up. It's a little gummy, you know, some coolant gets in there and it gets gummy. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then we're going to mount a wheel on it. So I'm going to bring you back, but now I've exposed my 2 holes. So now see, I'm locked in here. Now I can drop a wheel on, get the nut on, and get it nice and tight. You want it tight enough that when you're undoing and mounting and dismounting a wheel, you never affect that mount. So you want it a little tighter than you run your center nut, because a lot of times you just grab a hold of a wheel and counter rotate, and you're using the wheel as leverage. So it does need to be tight enough so you can still get your center nut off. All right, but let me get this cleaned up and get all these get all the gooey off of the counterweights and everything, and we're going to get a wheel mounted up and go from there. Okay, well, we're back from cleaning. Our faces are clean, and there's the back of it, and that's all cleaned up. And we got all the gooeys off of our counterweights and everything. And we're gonna, after we get it mounted, we're gonna put a light coat of oil in there in hopes of keeping the coolant out as this little guy spends the rest of its life. All right, so we're gonna use these 2 studs here to mount. Oh, also, I mounted it on the spindle and checked run out right here on face run out. Nothing, not even measurable. So always do that. Make sure your bore is nice and clean, doesn't have any gouges or nicks or anything. So let's get that wheel mounted. We're on our studs, and we've got a 60J aluminum ox wheel we're putting on there. Nice tight fit. And this wheel's already been rung, as you saw earlier. Always use a washer. These are keyed washers. Make sure they're working properly. And this is my cleaned nut. So it's going to go on backwards. Alright, feels good. And then use your choice of pin spanners to tighten up. And like I say, firmly. Now this was a 60J wheel, and see, we've just covered up the grade, the grit and grade on it. So we're going to write it on here, 60J. J for future use. And over here we're going to do it again, 60 J. So we can tell just at a glance what that wheel is. Alrighty. Now let's move on to the counterweights. Now, like I said, we've got a weight. This is how they install right next to each other. So one cutout cancels out the other cutout. I wish I had more of these, but let's go over to the bench and I'm going to show you how to balance this type of wheel. And then later on, there's your standard arbors, non-balancing. I'm going to show you how to balance that. All right, so let's. I'm going to get this oiled, get these put together, and we're going to go take it over on the surface grinder and true it up, make sure it runs good, and get it nice and true. Then we're going to come back and we're going to balance. All right. Okay, well, we're going to start by removing a wheel, and you should just use the palm of your hand. And this is what I was telling you about. You usually grab a hold of the wheel like this to knock your center nut off. Remember, it's reverse thread, and it's just the palm of your hand. That's all it takes to get that center nut off. It doesn't need to be any tighter than that. So you get your center nut off, and that's just another homemade spanner. Those are 2 shoulder bolts. They got screwed in and Loctited, and then ground off to fit the nut properly. Next up is a puller. This is pretty easy to make. This is an oddball thread. It's a 3/4 16 or 14 or something. It's a weird little thread. But then you've got a T-nut puller, and it's as easy as that to pull your wheel off. Okay, well, we got our fresh wheel here, and we're gonna come on in. You want to make sure your spindle's clean. I've already wiped it down. I've already wiped down the inside of our bore. So everything's clean and ready to go. Feels good. And then we're going to do our center nut. Remember, backwards thread. And here's the part where you'll spin this nut off if you don't do it right. So we're just going to grab a hold of the wheel and counter rotate. And if you haven't tightened enough here, you'll spin that one off. All right, so our wheel's mounted, and we're kind of looking at the side of it. Make sure we don't have any wobble in it. Looks pretty good. Looks like she's spinning pretty good, but we need to get a dress on here and get a nice clean cut across there before we can move on. Overhead dresser is out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and dress off the plate. And bring this dude over here. Tip you guys down just a skosh. So you can see what's going on there. Diamond on a simple block. Something under there. There we go. Okay, mag it down. Diamond secure. Make sure you're on the center line of the wheel or beyond it on the upswing of the wheel. Let me get a dust collector on here. And we're ready to dress. Okay, watch your ears. Oh, let's put some light on it. I don't know if that helps you or hurts you, but I kind of need it. There. We're going to take quite a bit out of this wheel to make sure it's running true. These are 1/1000ths down feeds. And you can hear it when it starts cleaning up. Alright, I don't hear any chatter there anymore. It sounds nice and smooth. And we're going to give it a spin by hand. Make sure we got a good cleanup all the way around. Don't see any, there was handprints and stuff all over the edge of the wheel. So we're nice and clean now. So we're clean, full perimeter of the wheel. You know, when you miss a spot, you'll see a big segment that's still dirty and still didn't get cleaned up. But we're cleaned up to full perimeter. All right, so we're ready to take it over and balance it. Okay, we're going to start off with a clean plate. Everything's all cleaned up, and we're going to bring in a Starrett 199 master level, and I haven't leveled this plate in about 6 months, and from what I can tell, she's out. Hoping you can see that bubbles all the way that direction, but we need to get it before we can even calibrate this and check calibration on the level. We have to get it up to a line where it's reading. Now there's a 3-point mount underneath. There's I think there's 2 over here. Yeah, there's 2 here and 1 here on my mounting surfaces, and there's some glued on pads. And we just come in with a 3/4 inch wrench, and this one needs to be lowered. And there goes our bubble, rocketing over in that direction. And you can literally see if I stand to the left or to the right, and I'm actually deflecting the concrete slab, you can see it on the bubble. So it's and you literally don't even breathe on these things. Okay, I'm touching, my bubble's touching on the left on the main line, and one over on the right and touching on the left. So we're going to take this level and turn it 180 degrees without ever leaving the plate, and see if we get the same reading. And she's coming back to rest exactly where it was before. So yes, we're good. We know our level's trustworthy, and I need to give it about a half of an increment. The divisions on this is a half a thou per foot. So yeah, pretty darn sensitive. All right, I need to lower this just a little more. I'd bring you guys over, but I actually don't want you on the plate. Sorry. All right, we're level in that direction. I'm going to go ahead and flip it 90 degrees. And see how we look here. And once again, we're rocketing in that direction. It's always good to have one level surface in the shop, so it doesn't hurt to keep your plate level. We're going to take this one up. Wow, that was way too much. Okay, we're happy there. And now we're going to bring it back this other way. Check it again here, see if anything changed. Which it did. You just keep bouncing back and forth until you get it. Anything changes these things, just even the slab in your shop settling. You want something dead level, you just got to do it on a regular basis. All right. Happy there? Right there, she's creeping right back to center. I will hover you over and let you see exactly what I'm looking at. That's exactly what I'm looking at there. This thing is very temperature sensitive. That bubble, when it's warm, that bubble gets bigger, and you see it's not really constrained by those two main limit lines. So as it warms up, that bubble does get larger, and as it cools off, they get smaller. So you just have to kind of split the difference. All right. So we're happy that our plate is level. We're going to put the 199 away, and we're going to move on with this project and get back to doing what we were supposed to be doing. Okay, we got our plate level. We've got a pair of 246 blocks that I know are square and parallel and flat and all that stuff. We have a shop-made arbor. Pretty simple to make. Most grinders are 3-inch taper per foot. So the calculation is pretty easy to cut your taper. So make yourself a little tapered arbor. And you know, I see guys that have the ones that actually have a nut on there that holds the taper in. If you get your taper right, I've never had a problem with it just going in, and use a little urethane hammer, tap it in, and that turkey's in there. But I've seen them before that have an actual nut that holds it on, but mine didn't require that. And I don't have a fancy schmancy leveling set up like some of these guys, but we do in fact see a very heavy spot right out of the gate. I'm going to go get a Sharpie, and I need to get an Allen wrench for these counterweights. Then I'm going to show you what we're going to do from here. Okay, and I'm back with my Sharpie and my Allen wrench, and look at that thing. It's still going. She's still rocking. So I'm going to let that thing settle down, and then we're going to, if I had to guess, I would say that wheel's pretty darn close already. Okay, 10 minutes later, it finally settled down. It's still rocking back and forth slightly, but it finally settled down. I'm just going to make it one mark right here on the opposite of the heaviest part. And what you do is you take both of these witness lines and just bring them right up to the heaviest point and align them. And that they should still nullify each other out, and we should still have the same balance point. I'm going to let that rock and come back to its lowest point, and then what we're going to start doing is, if you'll notice, there's arrows on each one facing opposite directions. All we do is start moving those apart until this little fiasco goes away. And what you're going to do is you're going to see that line, that witness line I made there, start shifting away. I'm going to move this right now. I'm going to move this to here. I'll move this to here. And we're going to let it settle back in. Still heavy there. Still heavy there. Move this away. Move this away. I'm putting my heavy end over there. So essentially this is the heavy side here. See if she drops, which she does. Come back here. See if she drops, which she does. Move them a little farther away from each other. dropping much slower. It actually came to rest there. Let's take it over here. Marks over there, heavy ends over here. Still a little heavy over there. So we need to lighten that up just a bit. Okay, well, she finally came to rest, and as you can see, we're working it around in this direction, and I need to make another mark right here for my heavy spot. And we're going to take that line, and we're going to split those other two. So I'm moving both weights at the same time, and I'm just going to put it right in between that, and I'm actually going to spread them a little bit. Just move them apart just a tad. Nine. Hovers. 3. Hovers. Let's take it all the way up to 12. Right there. Hovers. So I call this wheel pretty balanced here. About as balanced as I can make it with these weights. And we're just going to pop our arbor out. And like I say, that's just a tap-in fit. Just like a Morse taper. Tap it in and it locks. You know, you don't really need... I don't see the need for having a nut and installing it on there. So that's pretty simple to make. Just make some centers, mount it on centers, cut it on the lathe, and if you've got a tool post grinder, you can grind it, or if you've got a little spin fixture for your surface grinder, you can grind it on that. Either one, but pretty simple to make. And that's balanced. Let's go do one that doesn't have a balancing arbor. Holy crap, what do we do there? Let's go figure that one out. Okay, basically we've got the same thing here. This is a non-balancing arbor. I've put my little arbor attachment in there and let it settle down. I guess I can go right in through here. Okay. Sure, that's our lowest point. Okay, yes, that repeats. All right, so I've got one little line there. I'm going to use a center finding square to just draw a line all the way down. That wheel. As so. And we'll double check that again. Make sure that hits. I'm going to line it up with this hole right here on the... I'll line my line on the wheel up with that hole and make sure it comes right back to that. You can use the holes in the blocks as sight holes. Okay, I'll bring you back when that settles down, but I think we got a good mark. Okay, well, as you can see, we have come to rest back on our same witness line we put on there. So let's go over to the drill press. I'm going to show you how to remove a little bit of material from that. Okay, we've got a carbide tip drill bit in here. We've got our line that repeated for us, and I've actually transferred it over to the other side. So we've, if need be, we can get in there and do the other side. But I'm just going to put a little divot right on that line. Carbide tip's the only way to go. You're not going to do this with high-speed steel. I want you to do it right next to the blotter, right on the center line of that hole. That's it. We're not doing that much on it. and it's all cause and effect. So, you know, go back to your balancer, check it again. And then if you need more weight out of that, go to your other side over here, make another little divot there, and then start moving it side to side. But let's go see how we did with just that. See how much we went out to the full diameter of this drill bit. All right. Okay, we're still not enough. We put it back on, let it wiggle its way in and come back to rest. Our line is still dead bottom in alignment with that hole. So we're going to go remove a little bit of material off the second side. Just out to the diameter of the drill, don't go any deeper. That's it. Back to balancing. Okay, well, she came to rest at the same spot. I'll take you down and show you. See that line down in there? So she came to rest back in the same place. We're going to go remove a little bit more, this time to each side of that divot we already put in there. Okay, well, you can see our divot here and our divot here. We're just going to go to the side of it and just put in the little tiny one on each side, just a little bit on each one. So it's not going to be a heck of a lot, but we are removing weight. I'm just going to come right here, put my point right next to that. That's it. What a great noise. Okay, a little bit there. And we're going to flip. Do the same thing here. That's it. I'll show you what that looks like there. And you can see the contrast. We've got one large one and two small ones on each side of it, on both sides. So we've got three little divots on each one. We don't want to go too deep, I'm not going to say you don't weaken the wheel, but I've never had one blow up. This is the usable part of the wheel. When you get to this point, if you wear that much of a wheel away, it's done. So that's not a usable portion of the wheel right there. All right, let's go throw it back on the balancing rig. Okay, well, it took a few more trips back and forth to this drill press. I'm sure you guys were getting bored with it. I was tired of moving the camera back and forth. So I've made just little steps. You know, you don't want to go overboard, and what you'd do is you'd shift that line directly opposite. So our line's facing straight down. We're on our center of our block. We're going to move our line out to 3 o'clock and let go. And she hovers. We're going to move our line out to 9 o'clock and let go. And she hovers. We can move it all the way up to 12 o'clock. She hovers. So anywhere we put that wheel, it stays. So we've finally removed enough material out of there for us to call that balanced. All right. And this was our end. I don't know whether you guys can even see that. There's really no contrast, but the holes are all full diameter, and I ended up just going across and making up one solid groove all the way across. And we're no more than 1/8 of an inch deep. I know it's kind of hard to tell how deep we are, but 1/2 inch wheel with 1/8 inch per side removed. No danger of this thing exploding. I've never had one blow up that I did this way, ever. All right, but this wheel's balanced and ready to use. Okay, guys. Well, that's the end of this. I hope you found it educational. This is the way I do it. There's a bunch of videos up on YouTube of how other guys do it. I wish I had the luxury of having all balancing arbors. That would be great. But I don't. You know, I've got a select few of balancing arbors. And if you've got the standard arbors, you got to drill. If you want to balance, you got to drill your stones, and that's just the way it is. I have never had one fail. I will say that. Just don't go too deeply, and make sure you've got a nice thick wheel to deal with. Don't do it to a little 1/4 inch wheel. Now, the importance of balancing becomes evident when you get into the larger diameters and the thicker wheels. Those are really going to go out of balance more easily, and they will require more work. Now, another thing I should mention is the condition of your machine plays a big part on the importance of balancing. A nice, tight, new spindle, you probably wouldn't even see the difference of an out of balance wheel. But you get an older machine with some play in there and put an out of balance wheel on there, and you know, I'm talking radial play here, and that thing's gonna sit there and chatter, and you're gonna really see your spindle play in there. You're gonna see the scalloping and the fish scale looking finishes that way. I've got a pretty fresh spindle in mine, so balancing isn't quite as important. It does, everything helps. So a little bit of balancing goes a long way. All right, I hope you found this informative. Stay safe out there. Always test your wheels, ring them. If you drop one, pull it off the arbor, go check it. But now you can see the importance of having a lot of arbors. It's a lot of work to get these mounted. It's a lot of work to get them balanced. And after they're on and balanced, you don't want to break them down. You want that wheel to stay with that arbor until it's worn out. All right, guys. Again, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.